Hi, everyone. My name is Tony Hokenettle, and this is my future plan presentation for PE 6190 Trends and Issues in Physical Education and Coaching. So, personal reflection, why is staying up to date important to me? I'm a pretty competitive guy, just like I'm sure like many other coaches and PE teachers. And I feel in order to be the best, I got to know the best tips and tricks that there are in the game right now. If there's something that I'm doing that's not going to help my kids be the best that they can be, then I'm not being the best that I can be. So I feel that knowing the newest, the latest, the greatest tips, tricks, strategies, techniques, whatever, what have you, is the way that I can be the best. And that's what I want to be. Some personal reflections. When has staying best informed helped my career? My career has been kind of weird. I've been a couple different schools. I've been to three. I've been at Yuma High School teaching PE and science there, kind of part time with both. And then didn't really like that. It was a lot on my plate. Couldn't do it. Moved to Fort Morgan High School. Got hired to teach PE at the high school level. Didn't get an opportunity because my principal asked if I would teach science in late July, and I was all, sure, for a year, right? 6 years later, I'm still doing science. So, um, 7 years into my career, I finally get to be a PE teacher. And so, 7 years removed from my undergrad, it was a little bit like, oh man, I'm rusty at this. What do okay. So I had to do a little bit of reading, a little bit of that. Again, it's been kind of year after year. I've been getting better and better and better, but again, still shaking the rust off. Um, and just kind of getting comfortable back in my own skin. It's like being a brand new teacher again, but you've been doing it for 7 years, and you're like, all right, cool. That's a shot to the ego. So it's been kind of a little bit tough. And I guess I'm not your typical PE teacher in that sense, where I've done a couple different things. And I'm finally doing what I went to school to do, and I get to work with kindergartners every day. I get paid to play. It's a great gig. I love it to death, and I wouldn't change anything that I've had in my career up to this point. But one of the biggest things that I've noticed as far as changing the what I'm doing was finally taking the plunge and doing a master's degree. And that very first class, in the master's program, was such a breath of fresh air because it was principles of motor learning. And again, it had been, it's been uh, 12, 13 years since I graduated with my undergrad. And it was one of those moments where it was kind of a nice confidence booster. We're like, hey, I know this. I understand this. And this is why we do what we do. Specifically, the biggest thing for me that was like that, like, hey, this is why I need to be doing it. Don't ramble, which is, as you know, something I'm really good at doing. But 2 minutes or less of instruction, huge difference. I noticed just with uh, my first couple of units talking about different tag games, talking about general space and personal space, and navigating that for the kindergartners who, unfortunately, in the post-COVID world that we live in, don't get to do a lot of that stuff. So again, being able to teach that, teaching skipping, teaching galloping, teaching it quickly, and demonstrate again was something that was huge for me, and I noticed a big difference in my kindergartners as well. Some other personal reflections I've had specifically with this class, some topics that we've discussed and that really have affected me. The first one that we really got into that I was just like, whoa, was the sheer number of podcasts that are dedicated to coaching and PE. That was something I wasn't really ready for. I know that like just about everybody and their dog has a podcast. However, I've been always kind of nervous to put myself out there and doing a podcast, and I assume that a lot of other current PE teachers were the same. Just because you say something political or you say something whatever, you get canceled, and then oh, guess what? This little podcast that you were doing for fun cost you your job. That's not the case, and so that's been something that's been really cool for me the last couple of weeks as we've had this class where been able to kind of dive into some of these. And I'll talk about how one of them actually affected the current unit that I'm doing right now. And then another topic that we discussed with our presentations was sharing space. Again, I've been on both sides of the issue. Um, before as a PE teacher and then also as a wrestling coach. Where as a PE teacher, I've had in this gym here, preschool comes in as a loading depot before and after and in the middle of the day as they are a half day. And when they're coming in, they're tracking snow and water and they have the door open and it's blowing stuff in. There's dust, there's tumbleweeds coming in the gym. And I'm like, really? That's awesome. And then as the guy who's taken a gym space away from other teachers as the middle school wrestling coach, I understand that they're struggling dealing with me in there as well. And so that particular topic kind of rekindled the drive that I also want to do as far as potentially getting a wrestling room built at our middle school, and not just for wrestling, but just kind of a multiple sport complex where we can not only just do a bunch of sports year round there, but also add it as an extra educational space for our PE teachers too, because that school is just our district is growing, which I know isn't common for everywhere else, but for us, we're just blowing up or bursting at the seams, and that's something that we need over there specifically, and it'll benefit everybody. So that particular topic really kind of got me re-energized to do that, and I've been brainstorming some different ideas on how to do that. The next thing was athlete burnout. I know that this is a thing. I've experienced this as a teacher before. It's something, especially when I was teaching science, I almost got out of education over it. And then as a parent and as a coach, seeing that burnout with some of my wrestlers and then also my own daughter, that particular presentation was very enlightening for me to be able to see some of those warning signs and be like, oh no. And then I was a little frustrated not to get more solutions for it, but I do think being able to see some of those warning signs has helped me as a parent kind of get my kiddo and be like, all right, kiddo, like, hey, let's take a break. Let's go do something else, something that can kind of help re-energize us and that we're not going to get kind of ground down and turned into like, get ground into dust over. So that's been something that I feel like I've become a better parent since listening to that presentation. Some hands-on research that I want to do. And a lot of this is the first two specifically. As a coach, I feel like it'd be pretty easy and inexpensive to do in the grand scheme of things. But I would like to join the Colorado High School Coaches Association. This is something I've been putting off the last handful of years, and I think would be something very beneficial just because a lot of the clinics are just an hour away in Denver. One specifically that I want to go to is this one here in July one of the officials that actually officiates our wrestling tournaments and Rob Rivers, he's going to give a talk about the rules and rule changes and how to interpret those rules and those handbooks. And so that'll be something kind of cool, not only knowing him personally, but also just kind of getting a refresher. It's been about 10, 12 years since I was last an official, and it's about time I get kind of reversed in all of those rules as well. And then becoming a member of USA Track and Field, I think would be something that would be very beneficial, not just as a coach, but also as an assistant coach to help my head coach run meets a little bit more effectively because I could pull my own weight and be able to know what to do without being told what to do. So I think that'd be something very beneficial for that. And then the listening to the podcasts that we were exposed to, one of the ones that I think of or think back to because it affected me this last week was a Supersized podcast with Jim Hamble. He was talking about teaching elementary kids bowling and all the benefits of that, not just the mathematic benefits, which my kids weren't quite ready for, but the sharing, taking turns was huge. Not to mention it was also something that really kind of fit in with my underhand throwing unit I'm doing right now and how rolling and underhand throwing are very similar. And it was pretty cool. I was very, very pleasantly surprised because I swore I would never teach bowling, and then here I am. Anyways, some upcoming events that I really want to do, like I mentioned already, was that Coaches Clinic coming up in July 26th, 27th. So Friday, Saturday, so it'd be something I could very easily do. There's 4 different talks that I was able to look at that I'm very interested in doing. JP Nurbin talks about how you can tap into parents as a resource and how they can help improve team culture. Rob Rivers obviously talking about rule changes for the upcoming season. Ty Tantham building a new team That's really exciting, especially if we're able to get a girls wrestling program started here, fingers crossed. And then Bo Tillman, again, the wrestling mindset. You can never go wrong with kind of getting a refresher with that as a wrestling coach, especially toward the end of a season, kind of getting re-energized and getting excited again for a new season. So some go-to lists for resources. YouTube, I love YouTube. I have a couple different channels. I'm not what you would call a YouTuber. I did have a student go, "You a YouTuber, Mr. Oak?" I'm like, I guess, because I make some of my own videos for them to do crossing midline. You must be rich. I'm like, no, no, I'm not. I wish, but no. But anyways, I really love YouTube because again, the PE specialist is one of my favorite ones. Phys Ed Games, another great one for different game activities, kind of be able to tweak and modify for my kinders. PE specialists actually helped me out really big this last year for my parachute unit. I was able to add a couple games. I've been kind of expanding my units, making them a little bit bigger to where I go a little bit more in depth. Since this year, I'm able to teach every single one of my kindergartners every day. I went from every other day last year to every day this year. So I'm really excited to kind of dig deep into some of these units and squeeze every last little minute I can out of them. I've already talked about some of the podcasts already. Newsletters, the PE specialist has several. As a district, we're actually subscribed to the PE specialist. So I get a newsletter emailed to me like every other day, twice a week. And then the Bureau of Education also sends newsletters as well, and also opportunities for professional development. Excuse me, I'm a little tongue tied. So that's been something that's been really interesting to kind of dig deep into. And then the Women's Sports Foundation, I use that particular foundation as a source for my article for girls wrestling program. And I've been digging a little bit deeper with some of your feedback, Dr. Lynch, on how am I going to fund some of that program? I did find out that they have a ton of grants that potentially we could qualify for. As far as I mean, like me and my district, to potentially fund it if we would need to. And then there's a ton of articles as well that are just amazing for specifically that program and just other things that we can use with that. Some short-term SMART goals for PD. Like I was talking about earlier, I want to go to that coaches clinic put on by the Colorado High School Coaches Association. That'll be this summer. They offer a wide variety of different sports clinics from cheerleading, cross country, not super specific for me, but they do have one for wrestling. And actually, they have 3 for wrestling and then a couple from football and then some general just coaching ones as well that I'm very interested in going in. I'm planning on taking notes, gathering as many business cards as I can, and doing as much social networking as I can, not just within, football or track or whatever, but just also like with wrestling, kind of picking some brains of some people, what their thoughts of about middle school girls wrestling as well. Very achievable to be like $85 for the membership and then $50 for the clinic, which is not bad. And it's only an hour away. As you can see here, here's Fort Morgan. And then we don't talk about that town. That's a school rival of ours. And then here's Denver, just right over here, just an hour away. So, not very, very easable, just down and back. I wouldn't even need to get a hotel room. So that'd be nice. And then, like I was talking about, relevant is right in my wheelhouse. Here's the time. And then, I mean, barriers, there is a little bit of I would be, losing out on some wages, not a big deal, be one afternoon. And then the cost of the clinic plus food and travel, not a big deal. Intermediate SMART goals. Like I was saying, I feel like the world of podcasts were kind of blown up for me this year with this class where I was like, whoa, there's that many people doing that many different podcasts that were relevant to not just PE, but wrestling, track, football. I feel like it's almost like ice cream. There's in all these different flavors of ice cream. There's the same thing with podcasts. It's just you want something, look it up. It's there, which is crazy to think about. Now specific, yes, there's a ton of different things that are relevant to both PE and coaching. I think listening to at least one of those a week, it would be very, very, very obtainable, very realistic, and very easy to measure. I already have the necessary subscriptions. I have an Audible subscription, and I already have an the iPodcast subscription because I have iMusic subscription with my phone. And it's not very hard. You can accelerate the speed of the podcast if you feel like it's moving too slow. And I mean, you can crank out some podcasts like crazy. Relevant, like I said, is relevant to my field of study, what I want to do. And then I think that the timing with it, I feel like the more often you do it, the more likely it is to become a habit. That habit becomes a routine, and it just becomes a part of your day. And then barriers, I would say forgetting potentially to do the podcast is a possibility, but I think kind of partnering with my instructional coach, maybe meeting once or twice a month, and kind of holding each other accountable to both of us listening to some kind of podcast, whether it's the same one or just different ones that are pertaining to us professionally, and kind of reflecting and talking about the different stuff with it, I think would also help making sure that that's being done. Long-term SMART goals. This one would be going to several different conferences, two in-state and one national conference. I haven't done that as a professional, mainly because of this way how my career has gone. That's, I guess, one regret that I have is that I haven't been able to do a lot of these things because I haven't been teaching PE. Measurable, we got 3 conferences, 2 in-state, and one being a national conference over the next 5+ years. We're talking one every 2, possibly 3 years. That's very achievable. Gives me plenty of time to save up for it. And I think that would be something that's very, very, very realistic as far as time concerns. The biggest barrier I would say is going to be money, putting money aside to do that. And then also the cost of multiple membership subscriptions, travel costs, et cetera, which I kind of have that broken down right here in my plan of action. The first one is becoming a member of all of these different organizations. Now, do I have to do this congruently? Not necessarily. I can kind of alternate depending on when I want to go to certain conferences or clinics. And I want to go to the first one with that coaches clinic this upcoming summer. I think listening to the podcast, I can do that congruently while all this stuff is going on. The Shape Colorado conferences, I can potentially do one coming up this December. They haven't got all the information about that. I'm budgeting about $300 to $500 with food and travel. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then there's one coming up for Shape America. I probably won't go to that one just because I want to space some of this stuff out. But I'm guesstimating it'll probably be $2,000 to $3,000 to do that with registration fees, which is about $400, $500. Travel, and then hotel and food costs. Now, why is this something that I think is important now? Well, like I said earlier, I've never attended one of these conferences as a professional, and I want to kind of explore some of these on my own, pick which ones that have the topics that I'm interested in. Too often I've been to professional developments here as a PE teacher and as a science teacher where we're like, all right, we're talking about reading today. And I'm like, cool. I don't know what you're talking about I just recently learned that CVC words mean consonant, vowel, consonant, and I didn't know what that was for like the first 2 years that I was here, and I was like, what are we talking about? I have no idea. So I'm just sitting, nodding my head, just like, what are we doing? So they haven't been super meaningful, which is unfortunate. And I want to like have a little bit of fun while I travel and do some of these as well. I think it's something that I've seen coworkers go, and they go across the country and they go to this conference and they go and do fun things together. And that looks like a blast. And then you get a chance to do some social networking as a professional, both as a teacher and a coach. And that's something that I would like to kind of see what PE and coaching looks outside of my little bubble here in Northern Colorado. Some barriers, obviously money is going to be a thing. If I can get funding, I know that there is funding in each building to do some of these. I want to say Morgan Middle School should be able to pay for the coaches clinic. Some of these other conferences, it just kind of depend if there's funding available or if there's a grant. The biggest one for me, I think, would be time and scheduling. Is this going to be during the school year? We have to find a sub. Or potentially is it going to be during wrestling season or track season. The summer would be obviously the best time, but again, currently right now I'm working 2 jobs, so I would be losing money as well as paying money. So it's just one of those things for me right now. That's probably going to be the biggest one. Whereas I think one of the more fun ones I got to look at here is specifically for a national conference, if I do one of these, can I take my family with us afterwards, especially if it's somewhere like in California or Florida, go to the conference, and then after that, we go to Disney or somewhere. I think that'd be something kind of fun to kind of kill two birds with one stone, do something professional, and then go on a little vacation afterward. And then ultimately, I've already kind of alluded to this, after graduating UCM, have a little bit more time, hopefully a little bit more money. And I'll be able to fully focus on teaching and coaching and only have one job. And then I do think that starting this master's program, this class specifically, kind of taking my professional development more personal. And just because too often I've had subpar professional developments where again, the professional development itself isn't bad. It's just not geared for PE teachers or at the time when I was at the high school, science teachers. And that's just unfortunate because they're using lingo and other acronyms that educators are famous for that I'm like, I don't know what that means, and I'm not going to raise my hand to ask because I'm not going to look like that guy today. So it's just one of those things where too often I've sat through those PDs and it's been unfortunately a waste of time because I didn't have the prerequisite information to understand what was happening. So, like I was saying, I want to take my professional development personal to where I get to choose what I get to do and make it meaningful for me. And I don't think up until this point I was really ready to do that. Not necessarily mature enough, but just kind of in my career ready to really do that and even know that that's even a possibility. So I hope this made sense. This has been a really kind of fun project for me just to kind of reflect inward and see what is I can do to make myself be the best that I can be and do the best I can do for my kids. Thanks and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.